live on the inside of the circle. But it's this top one that we'd like to talk about, thoughts. Because the book is called Think and Grow Rich. So the question comes down to, how do we think? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I've been reading this book for 10 years plus. And I couldn't answer that question. And it's very simple. We literally think in pictures. I mean, if I ask you to think of an airplane, what happens? An image pops on the screen of your mind. Think of an airplane. Think of a hot air balloon. Think of an exotic sports car. Think of a very nice boat. And you get an image. And the more clarity you have in the image, the less confusion there is. Ladies and gentlemen, where we have confusion, there is no clarity. Where we're lacking clarity, we have a whole lot of confusion. So let me ask you this. What's your kitchen look like? You have clarity? Total clarity on what your kitchen looks like. I'll bet you do. I'll bet you do. But if you think of my kitchen, there's no clarity. And without clarity, you have confusion. So now what does your life look like 1, 3, 5, 10 years down the road? You got clarity or do you have confusion? Now, Napoleon Hill is going to talk about the mind, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind throughout the book. We are talking here about images on the screen of the mind. So let me ask you this question. What does your mind look like? Now, I don't know about the rest of you. The first time I was asked this question, I had absolutely no image to work with. Total confusion. But I instantly went to that gray matter, wormy looking thing upstairs here in the head called the brain. I said, wait a minute, the mind is not the brain any more than your fingernail or your toe is. I didn't really understand that. And I certainly did not have an image to work with. There was a guy named Dr. Thurman Fleet, and he said, mind is an activity, not a thing. Since there's no image, we will create an image to eliminate the confusion and bring clarity. We have a mind and a body, a conscious and a subconscious. Ladies and gentlemen, as third grade elementary as this is, this little graphic could be the most important little graphic you've ever seen in your life, because it'll bring clarity where there's confusion. It'll bring clarity to a degree that 97% of the population don't even really want to understand. In your conscious mind, you have the right to choose anything you wish to think about. Nobody can force you to think something you don't want to think. You have that power. Now, that's not meant to be construed as a statement that you actually exercise that power, but we have it. The thoughts that we choose ultimately cause a feeling. And think about your grandchild. Think about your child when they were born. Think of a little puppy. Think about something that brings total joy into your life. Significant other, relationship, a nice evening out. Whatever it may be. See, those thoughts cause a feeling. That feeling is then expressed through the body into an action to produce a result, not the initial thought. A lot of people say this positive thinking stuff, that doesn't work. Well, they tried it for all of, 10 minutes, a month, maybe. See, they're habitually negative. So, ladies and gentlemen, if in any area of our life, if we want to enhance the quality of the results, we must enhance the quality of the thoughts. There are no exclusions to this, no exceptions. I don't care how long you study this material, it still comes down to the implementation of it. So let's go back to the original little stick person here. Now, once again, first time I saw this, maybe like you'd think they're drunk graphic artist. I quit school in the 8th grade. I drew a lot of stick people. I was bored. You have a conscious and a subconscious. Attached to your conscious mind, like little antennae, you have 5 little things called see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. They're the 5 physical senses. Ladies and gentlemen, that's how we are connected to the outside world. But you and I have been gifted with something. Something that Brutus doesn't have. It's amazing. Brutus just got up and shook, and he's the wiener dog. You call him King Bruty. But yeah, he's spoiled properly, no question. But see, Brutus can see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. Brutus has a brain. Brutus does not have these things called intellectual faculties of the mind or mental muscles. See, Brutus doesn't have the ability to reason. He is all about stimulation. Whatever stimulates him, he will act in accordance with his instinct. You and I will act in accordance with our environment as we've been conditioned to act. More on that as we go through the book. But see, you and I have these things called mental muscles. And most people have never heard of these things, and they certainly aren't interested in investing a lot of time in them. But the more we invest in these mental muscles and strengthen them and develop them, the more control we have. And the first of them is perception. Perception is simply the way we look at things. And most people look at the negative first. It's always the negative first. It's always the negative first. You want to condition your mind to find the positive first out of habit. Now, I know some people will say, well, Tim, that's Pollyanna. Is it Pollyanna really? Or is it having control over your mind? I think it's having control over your mind, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. The second muscle we want to strengthen is what we call will. Now, will is our ability to focus. And let's be brutally honest, ladies and gentlemen, especially in today's environment of society. We're distracted. Most people working from home, self-motivation. We are the ones who are in control of that because we are the ones who develop focus. Now, why is it that we lost focus so bad? As children, we focus. I watch a 5-year-old grandson. When he is focused on something, he is focused. What happens? Society, life, environment happens. See, ladies and gentlemen, we need to get back to developing focus, and it's real simple and it's real easy to do. Light a candle or put a dot on the wall and focus on that candle or that dot just 10 seconds at a time, and don't allow anything to enter the mind except that flame or that dot on the wall. And the first time you do this, good luck. If you'll try this a couple of times a day for 90 days, 10 seconds at a time, you'll be amazed at how much focus can be developed. And then we have this thing called imagination. Now, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, imagination is beaten out of us. Now, think about it. If the 5-year-old runs around the house and he does not care at all what you think of him, he will pretend. He'll live that pretend world. He's in a feel good most all the time. And you and I can choose to live that way if we wish. And I know somebody just went, oh, that's a bunch of bull. No, that's not a bunch of bull. You can choose to live that way if you wish. That euphoric feeling all the time. You can use your imagination all the time. I'm not saying you don't live the reality of life. The game of life is still playing. There's no question about it. But you can choose, make a decision, chapter 8, to be happy all the time, if you want to. And then we have memory. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you and I have been gifted with the perfect memory, and then we've been conditioned otherwise, excuse me. You know, it's almost like we're born to win and then conditioned to lose. And to a degree, that is very true. See, memory is the same way. If I were to ask you what is 5 times 5, you know immediately what the answer is. You don't have to think about it. It's in there. If I ask you what is 5 plus 5, you know immediately what the answer is. Immediately. How do you know that so quick? I'll bet you haven't been in math class in years, if not decades for some. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know that because of the repetitive nature of study. You studied the laws of mathematics until you had a complete understanding of them. So when I said 5 times 5, you immediately knew you had 5 5s. When I said 5 plus 5, you immediately knew you had 2 5s. You didn't have to think about it. It had already been installed because of the complete understanding of the laws of mathematics. You have the perfect memory. You've been conditioned to use it in an imperfect manner. For example, you ever study for a test on Thursday, take the test Friday, forget the stuff by Saturday? You just used your memory to forget and conditioned yourself to do so. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have the perfect memory. It's all in how we've been conditioned to use it. And then we have this thing called intuition. Now, here's the thing with intuition. Most people just simply don't act on it. They get the intuitive idea to do something, to be something, to whatever it may be. And instead of acting on it, to open that business, to whatever it may be, and instead of acting on it, they question it. And why do they question it? Because they have the ability, we all have the ability to reason, to think. So what do? We reason with the past, and our past experiences become our future habitually, over and over and over and over again. How do you strengthen intuition? Act on it immediately without question. And we will learn through this book to control this thing called reason. Reason and thinking are the same thing. When we learn to do that, ladies and gentlemen, what happens is we gain total control of the feelings. Remember, thoughts, feelings, action, result, right? We learn to control the feelings. We shut off the flow of negativity from the outside. You and I are in control of where we want to go. And the first step of where we want to go is desire. It is the starting point of all achievement. Napoleon says, keep this constantly in mind. Weak desire brings weak results, just as a small fire makes a small amount of heat. Weak desire brings weak results. Remember this guy named Barnes? He had no money, but he had desire. And he jumped on a freight train. Blind baggage, hopped a train. I remember as a kid down in Reading, Ohio. If anybody from the Cincinnati area, you know where I'm talking about. Reading, Laughlin, the railroad tracks go right through there. I had a friend named Rick, and his dad lived down there. We went down there and played around the railroad tracks all the time. It's a wonder I'm still around because we hopped trains. But this guy hopped a train and went states away. And even though, remember in the book when he said he looked like an ordinary tramp, but his thoughts were those of a king. Remember that? He looked like an ordinary tramp. His thoughts were those of a king. And as he made his way from the railroad tracks over to the Edison offices, he saw himself standing in Edison's presence. He heard himself asking Edison for the opportunity to carry out that one consuming obsession of his life, the burning desire to become the business associate of the great inventor. But here's what we have to understand, ladies and gentlemen. This desire was not a hope. It wasn't a wish. This thing was a keen, pulsating desire, man. It was alive. What do you have inside of you that you want that bad? Or is it just ho hum? And yes, I'm talking to all of us at Maximizing Results as well. See, what is it? What desire is inside of you? See, this guy literally thought his way into a partnership with Thomas Edison. Now, he succeeded because he chose one definite goal. He placed all of his energy, all his willpower, all of the effort behind that goal. But it didn't happen overnight. He didn't walk in and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to be your business associate starting tomorrow. He was willing to start anywhere. And Napoleon writes that actually 5 years had passed before the chance he'd been looking for made its appearance. During all those years, not one ray of hope, not one promise of attainment of that desire had been held out to him. To everyone except Barnes, he appeared to be just another cog in the Edison business wheel, just another employee, just another pawn on the chess table. However, in his own mind, he was the business partner of Edison every minute of the time from the very day he went there. See, he won his goal because he wanted to be the business associate of Edison more than he wanted anything else. He did something most people will never do. And if you'll do this, you can have whatever you want. It doesn't matter what it is. But it requires us to address this thing called fear, which Napoleon will take us through. See, he created a plan by which to attain that purpose, and then he burned all bridges behind him. He said, I will burn all bridges behind me and stake my entire future on my ability to get what I want. He left himself absolutely no possible way of retreat, ladies and gentlemen. He had to win or perish. Napoleon says that's all there is to the Barton story of success. He left himself no alternative other than to either become the business associate or be just an employee. He left himself absolutely no way of retreat. And think about when I've done that in my life. And it's worked out every time. Napoleon tells the story of a great warrior that faced a similar situation. Many of you may know this story. And addressing his men before the first battle, he said, you see the boats going up in smoke? It means we cannot leave these shores alive unless we win. We now have no choice. We win or we perish. Napoleon continues and he says, every person who wins in any undertaking must be willing to burn their ships and cut all sources of retreat. Only by so doing can one be sure of maintaining that state of mind known as a burning desire to win, which is essential to success. Napoleon reminds us that every human being who reaches the age of understanding of the purpose of money wishes for it, but wishing will not bring riches. Sitting around wishing for it won't get it done. We have to desire it with the state of mind that becomes an obsession. Then we plan definite ways and means to acquire riches, and we back those plans with persistence, which does not recognize failure. That will bring riches. Now, I ask you to grab a piece of paper and a pencil. And if you're one of those multitaskers, stop it. Yeah, I got you. I must feel the energy. I got you. Stop it. Multitasking causes brain damage, ladies and gentlemen. That is a fact. Another fact. The brain cannot multitask. It either focuses on one thing or the other, but never both. Never. We're getting into the simplest instructions I've ever seen, yet the most overlooked and easily, shall I say, misplaced instructions. He says the method by which desire for riches can be transmuted into its financial equivalent consists of 6 definite practical steps. 6 simple steps. The back of a cake box, ladies and gentlemen. You have, if you get, if you grab one of those recipes, to cook something, my bet is a lot of them have more than 6 steps. Isn't it amazing how we'll stick with that recipe? But will you stick with these 6 steps? Bear with me as I grab myself a clean sheet of paper. 6 definite practical steps. Number 1, fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. Ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't have to be money only. It can be anything you want. You can utilize these 6 steps for anything. He talks about money. Remember, the book was written in 1937. Right after the Great Depression. So fix in your mind the exact amount of money you desire. Determine exactly what you intend to give in return for that money. Is it time and talent? Remember, you'll find out that these guys who became multi-cajillionaires, they had nothing to give in return for their riches in the beginning. Nothing to give except ideas, thoughts, time. So determine exactly what you have to give in return for what you want. Establish a definite date. Don't be afraid to write it down. Go ahead, establish that definite date. This can be a short-term goal. I'm writing down a short-term goal. That's what I'm writing. Establish a definite date. Create a definite plan for carrying out their desire and begin at once, whether you're ready or not. Begin at once. Begin at once. Here, let me make sure you hear this. Let me turn all of my microphones up. No, I'm just kidding. Begin at once, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're ready or not. Begin. Step 5. Write a clear, concise statement with the information from the first 4 steps. So basically, you can write yourself a bullet point list here if you want to. Or you can start to write a story about what it feels like after you've accomplished this. But what's it feel like? You've hit your goal. What's it feel like? And what I'm doing now is I'm getting ahead of myself into the next few chapters, okay? But write a clear, concise statement from the information and then read your written statement out loud twice daily and 100 times if necessary to create the feeling. And I know somebody just went, oh, that's a bunch of bull. Well, no, it's not. What it is it works. That's what it is. It works. Napoleon carries on. He says, it is important that you follow the instructions described in the 6 steps. It is especially important that you follow the instructions in the 6th paragraph. See, ladies and gentlemen, only those who become money conscious ever accumulate great riches. And money consciousness means that the mind has become so thoroughly saturated with the desire for money that one can already see oneself in possession of it. It's already yours. Put yourself in that state. Put yourself in that feeling. What he's asking you to do. Now, to the uninitiated who has not been schooled in the working principles of the human mind, these instructions may seem impractical. Well, you have been instructed now in the very basic working principles of the human mind. The very basic working principles is exactly what we just said: thoughts, feelings, actions, results. Images on the screen of the mind. What we think about, we become. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know this. But please know that these instructions came from Andrew Carnegie. Now, Carnegie is the way we say it in the United States. Carnegie is the way it's actually pronounced. But you never hear anyone say the Carnegie Hall, right? It's Carnegie Hall. But ladies and gentlemen, understand this. This man came to the United States in the mid-1800s as an immigrant. He earned $1.80 a week as a bobbin boy and became the wealthiest man in the world in the steel industry. And as you'll learn throughout the book, he really didn't know that much about steel, and he didn't know that much about marketing steel. And when he got the idea to build his own steel plant, him and another guy, they had no money. They had nothing but an idea and desire. That's what they had. They had no money. They got the third person in the mastermind group, and they still had no money. But that guy knew somebody who had a couple of bucks. So that whole I don't have money thing can't work here. Now the next part that I want to share with you is the part that really excited me when I first started reading this book. It said the steps call for no hard labor. They call for no sacrifice. I was very much more interested now. They do not require one to become ridiculous or credulous, and to apply them calls for no great amount of education. I was very much enthused now. I quit school in the 8th grade. I'm reading a book that says I can do this and I don't need any great amount of education and I can still do this. Napoleon continues and he says, if you do not see great riches in your imagination, you will never see them in your bank balance. The successful application of these 6 steps does call for sufficient imagination. Remember, that's one of the mental muscles we talked about. See it. If I ask you to think of your kitchen right now, you can see it. If I ask you to think of your commode, you can see it. If I ask you to think of some of the negativity going on in the world, I bet you can see it. Use your imagination the other way. Napoleon says, we who desire to accumulate riches should remember the real leaders of the world always have been men who harnessed and put into practical use, men and women, the intangible, unseen forces of unborn opportunity. They've converted those forces into skyscrapers, cities, factories, airplanes, automobiles. They've done that. Think about it. Tolerance and an open mind are practical necessities of the dreamer today. That's as true today as it was then. Those who are afraid of new ideas are doomed before they start. In planning to acquire your share of riches, Napoleon says, let no one influence you to scorn the dreamer. To win the big stakes in this changed world, you must catch the spirit of the great pioneers of the past, whose dreams have given to civilization all that it has of value. Remember this guy? Columbus? He dreamed of this unknown world, right? And he discovered it. What about this guy? Henry Ford. He poor, uneducated, 7th grade, I think, didn't even graduate 7th grade. Dreamed of this thing called a horseless carriage. He went to work with the tools that he had. He wasn't waiting for opportunity to find him. He went and found it. What about this guy? Said to have failed 10,000 times, found 10,000 ways that light bulb would not work. Well, everybody figured out if you bring a small wire and then you put electricity through it, it'll glow red, but it'll burn out right away too. It'll burn out right away. It'll burn out right away. It'll burn out right away. So what did he really figure out? He figured out that if you put it in a bulb and you remove the oxygen where it can't burn, it'll stay illuminated. That's what he figured out. Seems so simple today, right? What about these guys? What about this guy right here? Yeah, man, he dreamed of this guy dreamed of a world of freedom, absolute freedom. And he put his dream into action and he barely missed living to see it. What about this guy, these two guys, excuse me. These two guys, they were told they would burn in hell if they didn't give up their idea. They were dreamers. They put us in the air. Flight. Think about this guy. Oh, they threw him in a psychopathic hospital. They threw him in a psychopathic hospital, ladies and gentlemen. Make no mistake about this. In a psychopathic hospital, they tossed him in there because he figured out and discovered that we could communicate through the air without the aid of wires. Now, I don't know if my good friend is with us from Australia tonight or not, but I have no wires hooking my computer up to the internet. And very often she doesn't have any hooking her computer up to the internet. And it's kind of crazy. This guy figured it out. They threw him in a psychopathic hospital. And here we are afraid to use our imagination. Napoleon says the greatest achievement was at first and for a time but a dream. I mean, think about it. The oak sleeps in the acorn. The bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of reality. Awake, arise, and assert yourself, you dreamers of the world. Your star is now in the ascendancy. See, the world is filled with an abundance of opportunity which the dreamers of the past never knew. Ladies and gentlemen, that's true today. There's an abundance of opportunity around us at all times. The only question is, are we focusing on all of the doom and gloom? Or are we focusing on our true desire? See, a burning desire to be first and to do is the starting point from which the dreamer must take off. And your dreams, they're not born of indifference, laziness, or lack of ambition, ladies and gentlemen. Those dreams were born because you can live them. Napoleon reminds us again, remember too, that all who succeed in life get off to a bad start and pass through many heartbreaking struggles before they arrive. The turning point in the lives of those who succeed usually comes at the moment of some crisis through which they are introduced to their other selves. Think about Edison. This guy was nothing but a tramp telegraph operator. Failed over and over again. What about Helen Keller? Became deaf, dumb, and blind shortly after birth. Remember, no one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as a reality. Beethoven was deaf, Milton was blind. Their names will last as long as time endures, because they dreamed. They dreamed, ladies and gentlemen, and translated their dreams into organized thought. Do you have the courage to dream? Do you have the courage to really go after your desire? Do you have the courage to be successful the way you know you can? Yeah, the courage to be different, ladies and gentlemen. Napoleon says, before passing to the next chapter, kindle anew in your mind the fire of hope, faith, love, and tolerance. If you have these states of mind and a working knowledge of the principles described, all else that you need will come to you when you are ready for it. Now, there is a big difference between wishing for a thing and being ready to receive it. No one is ready for a thing until they believe they can acquire it. The state of mind must be belief, not mere hope or wish. Unfortunately, way too many people in society sit around hoping and wishing. Open-mindedness is essential for belief. Closed minds do not inspire faith, courage, or belief. Napoleon says this, and I remember reading this 24 plus years ago. It says, remember, no more effort is required to aim high in life, to demand abundance and prosperity than is required to accept misery and poverty. No more effort. No more effort to get really wealthy in all areas of life or accept the status quo. No more effort. So we say aim high, very, very high. Aim very high. Let your dreams out of the closet. Nobody sat around in the sandbox going, gosh, I can't wait up. I just can't wait to grow up and worry about shit. I'd be willing to bet nobody played ball with their friends and stopped, wait a minute. You can't wait to grow up so we can stress out about stuff. I don't think so, ladies and gentlemen. I don't believe that to be true in any way, shape, or form. You didn't do that. Neither did I. We pretended. I have a saying in front of me. It stays right here in front of me. It says, pretending is the fastest way to believing, Tim, and believing is the fastest way to receiving. Doesn't mean we sit around and go and wish. Take action. But aim very high, ladies and gentlemen, very high. I want to share with you something in this chapter that really, it sums it up. And it really sums up what Napoleon Hill is trying to tell us. And it's in a very, very cool poem in this chapter. It says, I bargained with life for a penny, and life would pay no more. However, I begged at evening when I counted my scanty store. For life is a just employer. He gives you what you ask. But once you have set the wages, why, you must bear the task. I worked for a menial's hire only to learn dismayed that any wage I had asked of life, life would have willingly paid. Through some strange and powerful principle of mental chemistry, which she has never devolved, nature wraps up in the impulse of a strong desire that something which recognizes no such word as impossible and accepts no such reality as failure. Ladies and gentlemen, my first mentor, who is the one that truly changed the direction of my life, he asked me a question one day. He said, Tim, there's two different types of people. He said 97% of the population will retire broke, dependent upon friends, family, and the federal government to get by. And only 3% of the population will reach that thing called total financial independence. Now, total financial independence does not mean millions and millions and millions of dollars. Total financial independence is also peace of mind, P-E-A-C-E. I have a good friend that I referee with, and certainly this gentleman doesn't have millions of dollars by any stretch of the imagination. He is one of the most happy people, consistently happy, that you'll ever run across, you'll ever meet. He's totally financially independent. He doesn't need any more money. He has enough to live the way he wants to live. But he asked me, what's the difference in these two? And I didn't have an answer. I didn't know. But I knew which side of the line I wanted to be on. He said, the answer is very, very simple. Very simple. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I won't give you that answer tonight. I'll promise that answer on our last night together. On the last after the 6 ghosts of fear. And remember, this mentor that I had, he started the fastest growing privately held company in the United States at the time. He went from 0 to $194 million in 4 years, $194 million per year in just 4 years. According to Inc. magazine, he outgrew Microsoft in the first 5 years of business. He built it based on the principles from this book. And in my opinion, when he got away from the principles of the book, that's when it failed and it went away. And that was 3.5 years after I had found him. The company went away. I found myself in real estate, not knowing what I was doing. And that's when things completely changed for me. I guess I was introduced to my other self at the time, but things completely changed, increased my income 604% in 1 year. But anyway, he's the one that taught me this. I read an article within the past, say, 6 months. I do a lot of reading of articles online and just to stay up on things. Then this article supported these same numbers. So this is true today, what he told me in 1996. It's a very small percentage of the population that will reach this thing called total financial independence. It's a simple answer. We'll learn it together all the way through the book. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to support us, go to QBMO.com. You can get access to the recording of this this evening, but you can also get a moment to think. A moment to think is just that. 2-3 minute video, just something to think about. And it's very interesting. And we encourage you to go do that. Once again, it's QBMO.com. And I'm sure one of my esteemed colleagues, if they're here, will throw it in the chat window for us. If I could get them to do that, they'll probably do that for us. But anyway, I noticed somebody's hand popped up. Let me see if I can find that, unless it went down. It went down. I think it went down. Hang on, I'm trying to get through everybody. So my question to each one of you is, did you go through the 6 steps? What do you want? How much money do you want? How much money do you want this month, next month? How much money do you want long term? Set of goals. Go do the 6 steps. Don't do them for me. Do them for you. Do the 6 steps. What do you want? What are you giving for that? When do you want it by? Step 4, create the plan, begin at once, whether you're ready or not. Step 5. Step 5. Step 6, read it. Hi, Kay, how are you? I've got you unmuted on my end, I believe.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. What's up, champ? How are you, superstar?
Good. How are you? Thanks for the information. I guess my question is, I have desires and I have goals in my mind, but to me, it seems difficult to focus on a bunch of them at once. So if you say, how much money do you want to make this month? How much money do you want to have in a year or 3 years or 5 years? Like, do we need to focus on one, or how do we wrap our heads around focusing on all of these different things?
That's a great question, Kay, a great question. There's, go back to Earl Nightingale. And Earl says there's 3 numbers that we should know. And the first number we should know is how much do we want to earn each year? And of course, you'll break that down to month and down to week. And how much do we want to earn each year? Second number is how much do we wish for our net worth to be? I mean, truly, how much do we want? And then the third number we should know is how much do we wish to earn each month when we no longer are working in any way, shape, or form? I mean, it's total fun time play. That's all we do. And then he said this, and it was the most important thing, one of the most important things I've ever heard. He said, forget about the money. and focus on providing the service, and the money will be there. So it's a skate around your question, but it don't mean to be. You should have a long term. What do you want your I mean, how much money does it require for you to live the way you wish to live? And that may take some work. You know, meaning sit down and you write out everything that you want to do in a year. You know, how much is enough? And a lot of people have never really done that. How much is enough for you to live the way you wish to live? Is it 100 grand, 200 grand? Is it $1 million? Is it 2 million? Is it 4.2 million? Is it 2.4 million per year to live the way you wish to live? Because that could be a long-term goal. But if you've never gone through the 6 steps before, I would encourage a goal, out maybe a year, and condition yourself, then start to develop the habit of doing this. Hopefully that answered your question.
It did. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, the 6 steps are very, very important. Once again, I wrote down a short term for next month. And the reason I did that, why I look down there and I get excited about that. I get excited about helping that many people. I get excited about bringing that income in to share and disperse and live. It'd be fun. Absolutely. So what you wrote down, does it excite you? I hope so. I truly do. Ladies and gentlemen, next week, what we'll do is we'll start to develop this thing called faith. And it's not the religious faith that a lot of us may think as soon as we hear that word. That's not it at all. What we'll do is we'll talk about faith in our ability to accomplish our desire. Faith in our ability, faith in ourselves, faith in us that we can do this. But the first piece, you could say the digging of the hole on your piece of land is, what do you want? I mean, they can't dig a hole and they can't put a foundation in until we tell them what kind of house to build us, right? We have to tell them, we have to spec it out, the house, the size of the house. We have to spec everything out about it. And if we don't do that, how could they possibly build us the house? They wouldn't even know what kind of a hole to dig, would they? Or they wouldn't. So it doesn't mean we'll have it perfect as we come into the next week. And if this is the first time you've done this, it may take, like I said, it may take a minute. But go through the exercise and start to figure it out. Joe Hernandez, how you doing, brother? I got you unmuted on my end.
Hello, Mr. Tim.
There you are, my friend. How in the world are you, brother?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to thank you again for putting this on. You do an excellent job teaching this stuff.
You.
And I say that from the bottom of my heart. Those 6 steps are very important. I come on here a lot and I make comments and put in my 2 cents and what have you. And sometimes I think that, I'm repeating myself, but it is so important, those 6 steps. I didn't discover this stuff till I came on and studied with you guys with maximizing results. And I'm listening to the stuff and I went back to see when that was that I came on with y'all. It was March 7th, 2019. It was on a Thursday night. Somehow another friend turned me on to Josh.
Yes.
And I got on. I got an email. I got an invite somehow. I was at the right place at the right time, or the law of attraction. I don't know what it was, but anyway. So I was listening to you that night, and that Friday morning, the next morning, I was on with you on your elite study group. It still took me, maybe a couple, 2, 3 more sessions of listening to you to discover how important these 6 steps are. It is very, very important. So, since then, March 7th, 2019, or around that time, a little shortly after that time, I started practicing that, writing the 6 steps, doing the 6 steps, just doing exactly how it says it, following the recipe like the cake box.
Yeah.
And it is just incredible how it works. What happens? you know, it works. It works. So, you know, like the person that had that other question, you know, I have goals. One of the things is you have to concentrate on that one thing. What is that one thing that you want to accomplish? Whether it be 3 months from now or 3 years from now or 30 years from now. But what is that one thing? You have to concentrate on it. And that is, you have to have that burning desire and burn all the bridges and follow those 6 steps. It is just so freaking important. You know, I finally messed around with it. What is it that I wanted? Because I was all over the place. I wanted this, I wanted that, I wanted this. You know, I had some businesses. I closed some of them down. I'm fixing to close some more down. You know, why? Because it's concentration. What is it that I want? What is it that I really, really, really want? The other things, you know, okay, they're fine, but they're distracting me. They're taking away time from that one thing that I want. And once I accomplish that thing, how many more people or how many people am I going to be able to help? Mm-hmm. So it's concentration. Decide what it is that you want. If you want 10 things, well, which one of those 10 things is it that you want the most? And that's what you have to concentrate on. I've got 3 or 4 notebooks now full of where I write out, you know, the thing, the statement, the story, the plan, you know, and it's evolved. It hasn't remained this. It's evolved. I think I have it perfect now. I don't know that it's perfect now. It may change, but right now it feels perfect. It feels good. It feels right. But I can tell you what, it is happening so fast. It's unbelievable. The way people appear, opportunities appear just out of thin air, things happen. I don't know what it is. Well, what is it? That is, you know, I just have faith in it. That's next week's chapter, right? Faith. Yeah. Is that chapter faith? Well, I have faith and how things work. It's just amazing. It's just amazing. I owe that discovering this to you guys. Because before this, prior to this, I had studied this stuff on my own 13, 14 years, however long, and I didn't have it. I didn't have, and so for those, you know, for that time, I was kind of bumping around, jumping around. I was lost. I felt like I thought I was going somewhere, but I wasn't really accomplishing much. Yeah, I was accomplishing a lot of things, but it wasn't what I mostly desired. You know, so I've got that desire now, and by God, concentrate on it, and it's happening.
Yeah.
So back, those 6 steps are so important.
Yes, they are. And I hope everybody feels Joe's energy.
I'm telling y'all from experience, I have nothing to gain here. You know, I'm just blessed to have met Tim, and we don't know each other. It's just here. We don't know each other, right? I mean, we know each other, but we've never met in person.
That's very true.
In person, and you guys taught me this stuff. Well, it's in the book, but my eyes were not open. And I guess you say the thing when the student is ready, what the teacher will appear. Well, you appeared right at the right time when I needed it, when I needed you guys to appear.
I appreciate that, man. You know, and Joe, you, I mean, truly, you have done so much with this material. You have built such a wonderful portfolio, and helped so many people. And then you discover the 6 steps. Because those 6 steps aren't listed anywhere in the laws, you know, either version of the laws of success, which is what you had been studying. And it's wonderful for us to be able to experience your growth, man, as you implement the 6 steps into what you've already been doing. You implement that, it all magnifies, becomes better for you and your family and everybody around you in your environment. That's why we do this, man. So I hope everybody feels Joe's energy and how passionate he is about this material. This material is why he's been able to build the portfolio that he's built. He's studied and he's implemented. He's made his mistakes. He's learned from them. He's moved on. And man, it's great to have you here, Joe, as always, brother.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me put my little 2 cents in, you know.
Oh, man, we appreciate you. We truly do. Absolutely. And I encourage everyone, truly, I encourage you, read the chapter on faith this week. before we jump into this this session next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, same bat channel, please read this chapter on faith. It's a phenomenal chapter. We learn how to develop faith where faith does not already exist. And if your goal is big enough, faith that you can pull it off may not be there to the degree that it needs to be there to actually pull it off. This chapter will teach us how to do that. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please allow this moment in time to be the very best you've ever experienced in this game we call life. Yesterday doesn't matter. It's already gone. Tomorrow isn't here. Can't do much about it other than plan for it and be ready. But this moment in time, we can do something about. And as you go through this moment in time, please do so with a mind full of peace. Calmness of mind is one of the beautiful jewels of wisdom. May God bless each and every one of you. Have a fabulous, fabulous rest of your day. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday.